Chapter 21, Sato, the mountain bandit leader. Sure enough, Sato shoved two fingers into his mouth and blew air through them as he charged outside. Gufei nervously checked his surroundings as a high-pitched sound pervaded the air, yet not even a monster's shadow appeared. Sato did not seem to mind this as he headed toward Gufei with a large knife in hand after he was done whistling. Sato was a humanoid NPC with average height, muscular bare chest, and a cruel face. He fit exactly the developer's image of a mob boss that would be difficult to defeat. With his grotesque appearance, Sato arrived in front of Gufei and unleashed a slash with a wave of his hand. Gufei nimbly dodged the attack but did not retaliate. He did not dare clash forcefully with Sato. Based on his observation, Sato was the type of monster with superb speed and power. Gufei would have to rely on his fighting techniques to win against him. What exactly were these techniques? Of course, it was Kung Fu. Kung Fu allowed one to overcome powerful enemies in combat through domineering techniques. The legendary 18 arms martial technique, consisting of sword, spear, staff, club, axe, trident, and so on, actually referred to the fighting techniques of 18 different types of martial arts. 9 blades of Tang. This was a very offensive fighting technique that solely relied on the Tang sword. Gufei wielded his current long sword precisely because it resembled a real Tang sword, allowing him to apply that particular fighting technique. Gufei firmly gripped the sword handle with his two hands and alertly looked at Sato, who was 2 meters away. Here it comes. Gufei's eyes twitched as he saw Sato lean in and shrug his shoulder blades backward. Gufei sidestepped just as a bright red light narrowly swept past him. That must be the move called Dread Blaze or something. Gufei recalled young Master Han mentioning it. One of the advantages for trapping Sato inside the hut was he would not be able to use this particular move. The move's damage is too high. Nobody could withstand it right now with the measly defensive equipment we have, even if we put all our stats to endurance. Young Master Han said this before as well. Why not dodge it if we can't block? Gufei asked this question back then. You try dodging it, then. Young Master Han replied snappily. Gufei successfully dodged the move right now. It was just a shame that young Master Han was not around to witness it. Gufei's father said that fighting techniques could be summarized into 8 words: eyes on the hands, hands on the eyes. For a regular person, keeping up with the hand movements of the opponent with their eyes was hard enough already. Keeping track of the opponent's eyes to counter the next attack was even harder. Gufei was capable enough to keep up with his opponent's movements. As for countering the attacks, stat points were necessary in this game to make that possible. Gufei fortunately added all his points to agility, allowing him to deal with Sato. Of course, all of these were possible due to Parallel World's incredible simulation. The NPC's actions were similar to how real human beings would move. Even Red Blaze, an imaginary move made possible by the game, could only be unleashed by the NPC Sato if he moved his limbs in a certain way. There were signs when he would attack. Thus, Gufei currently had the ability to dodge the attacks of the mountain bandit leader. Since Sato was bounded by the usual NPC's habits where he focused on single-mindedly attacking and not on dodging, it was obvious who would win this fight. Gufei's only concern was how much damage he could inflict on Sato with his attacks. His entire focus was on the sword in his hand. He was convinced that he could rely fully on it for this fight and did not need to use spells just yet. The sword was just a common weapon. However, although it was good enough to handle the regular monsters with its high damage output, Gufei was still worried that it might not be enough to deal with the mountain bandit leader that possessed high health and defense. But when Gufei managed to perform a horizontal slash, one of the moves from the 3 forms of Finliu, onto Sato's lower abdomen at the first window of opportunity, he gained a huge boost in confidence. This was because he felt quite an impact from the tip of the sword. Previously, Sword Demon deduced how much damage Gufei could cause by comparing the health of a monster and the amount of attacks Gufei needed before he could slay it. After days of immersing himself into this game, Gufei could actually determine how high the damage he caused just from the sensation he felt with his hand when an attack connected. His slash on Sato just now undoubtedly possessed high damage. He never felt such a high damage output before, even when he was fighting the usual monsters. Gufei felt perplexed. How was it possible that a mob boss had even lower defense than a regular monster? After skirmishing for a few more rounds and managing to slash Sato's left leg, Gufei finally understood the situation. He was able to deal so much damage to Sato because he was stopless. It seemed that Sato had zero defenses for his upper body for some unknown reason. The slash Gufei had attempted on Sato's left leg did not even cause any damage as he had some sort of armor on it. Now that he understood the whole situation, Gufei felt at ease and struck Sato's torso with every chance he got. As for the lower body, Gufei simply ignored it even when there was an opening to strike since he knew it would be useless. Even so, the fight with Sato lasted for a full 15 minutes. Although Sato had zero upper body defense, the amount of HP he had was no joke. Gufei was unsure how viable young Master Han's strategy of chipping Sato's health away inside the hut anymore. He had learned the repeating fireball spell that young Master Han mentioned, and it was not an AO spell in the strictest sense. What it could actually do was to cause slight damage to the nearby areas indirectly targeted. So if they were to subdue Sato according that plan, fuck it. Forget going to work tomorrow. With his torso riddled with wounds, Sato's head automatically detached the moment he collapsed. The head turned into a burlap sack from the get-go. Gufei smirked. It's a humanoid NPC after all. If we had to cut its head off after the fight, that would be very disturbing. The words, "the head of Mountain Bandit leader," appeared when Gufei picked up the sack and fixed his gaze on it. Gufei was actually trapped in the bottom of the cave right now. He got here by squeezing through the stone door in the secret pathway, and that door could not be opened from the inside with just his meager strength. Sword Demon and the others were about to barge in through the main entrance any minute now. Seeing as he could not find any switch that might open the main door, he decided to just wait for the others to open it for him. There was nothing around the area, so Gufei wandered into Sato's little hut. As soon as he entered, he could hear a weak voice saying, "Who are you?" Gufei was taken aback by this. The voice started to mumble on its own before he could even react properly. Gufei breathed a sigh of relief. NPCs usually act this way. Asking "who are you?" is just to draw attention to them. They'll start some mumbo jumbo to tell what's their deal. So what comes next? "Can you help me?" the weak voice asked. "Ah, so it's a quest," Gufei mumbled to himself. He did not actually pay attention to the NPC's blathering. The NPC was someone who came from somewhere else to search for something. He got abducted by the mountain bandits, and they tortured him because he refused to submit to them. Now that he was dying, he wished for a hero's appearance, which was Gufei apparently, to help him accomplish some unfinished business. Gufei accepted the quest without even thinking twice. It's just a quest. Nothing to lose from accepting it. I can cancel it anytime I want as well. It's fine even though I didn't hear the quest details just now. Surely, there's information about it on the official website. I can look it up whenever. Once Gufei agreed to the quest, the person on the verge of dying immediately said, "Thank you. Take my emblem. Good luck." The dying person raised his hand toward Gufei, and was dead in the next instant as Gufei received what was in his hand. Gufei lowered his head and looked at the emblem he had just received. There was no information besides the name, Eddie's emblem, on it. The pop-up window, which displayed the emblem's name, glittered with golden light. Only high-grade equipment would be displayed this way in Parallel World. Eddie's emblem, adds 6 points for all stats. I only accepted the quest and have not done anything, yet I already received such a powerful item. What kind of quest is this? Gufei was astonished. To be frank, equipment which added 6 points for every stat was inferior compared to something like Frost Memories, which boosted 25 points for a stat. It was true that the total point boosted by Eddie's emblem was 5 points more than Frost Memories, but nobody would actually distribute points evenly among all the stats. From the perspective of players who wanted to strengthen the stats which were more advantageous to their job class, Eddie's emblem was not particularly helpful. However, it was still equipment with golden lettering after all. Its very existence hinted at how special the quest probably was. Even Gufei, who had no real interest in questing, was now a little more keen on the quest. He immediately opened his quest log, and saw a new quest on the list, Eddie's mission. Eddie, who embarked on a journey to accomplish his quest, had unfortunately fallen into the hands of the mountain bandits. Can you accomplish this quest on his behalf? This was the only information mentioned on the quest description page. The quests in Parallel World were all like this. the quest details were actually heard directly from NPCs. The quest log would only list the name of a quest without any accompanying hints or details. That was why players carried little notebooks with them when they were handling quests. They would crazily jot down details as soon as the NPCs started talking. Gufei pinned the emblem on his chest, but he tucked it back inside his mage robe once he looked down his chest and saw just how unsightly it was. The emblem was considered to be an accessory item, and it would be in effect as long as it was not stuffed inside the player's dimensional pocket. Gufei could feel himself getting stronger already. Every stat received a boost of 6 points. It was as if he leveled up 6 times since he received a total of 30 points. Oh, yeah, who knows what kind of treasure Sato might still be hiding. I should go look around some more. Gufei began searching around as he thought of this. At the same time elsewhere, Sword Demon and the rest had reached the last line of defense of the enemies. A mini-boss was guarding the door, and a lot of mountain bandits were in the surroundings as well. It was pretty troublesome as it took every ounce of them to wipe out all these monsters. War Without Wounds, who was in charge of attracting the aggro from the monsters, was nearly annihilated. Luckily, Sword Demon was there to block the attack for him in the nick of time. Young Master Han's MP was close to empty, so he was unable to help at that time. Only a veteran like Sword Demon noticed that War Without Wounds was in a dire state. All were busily patching themselves up as the battles ended. Young Master Han and Royal God Call fought with long-ranged attacks, so they still seemed to be composed, but the other three were already in a sorry state. Alright, young Master Han consoled everyone. The hard part is over. The next battle is just a matter of repeating the same strategy over and over again. The monsters here will respawn in 5 minutes, so let's all take a good rest and replenish our HP. Miles, we are all counting on you later. Miles? Young Master Han turned around, only to see the employer standing behind them with a puzzled look. Where's Thousand Miles drunk? Young Master Han looked around. Chapter 22. Issue. Everyone was dumbfounded. They barely had time to pay attention to the two stragglers as they were busy killing the monsters. All Gufei and the employer had to do was follow the path they had cleared, so there was no need to protect Gufei even if he was a weak mage. Where is he? Young Master Han stared at the employer. He went ahead and engaged the monster we accidentally attracted to let me escape, he replied. That was to be expected. Although considering how long it was abnormal for him to not have caught up to them by now. Gufei would be in no way slower than their group who had to keep clearing the monsters in front. Perhaps the monsters along the way had respawned by the time he finished fending off the initial aggressor? Brother Assist suggested. The path, which required the concerted effort of 5 pros to clear, was not something a single mage could handle alone. I'll send him a message. Seeing that the exquisite face of young Master Han had turned ashen, Sword Demon immediately sent a message to Gufei. If what Brother Assist said was true, the 5 had no choice but to turn back to get him. The experience they had thus far was already exhausting. Turning back right now would only leave the team annoyed and filled with grievances. It would also make teaming up in the upcoming battles awkward and tense. Everyone stared at Sword Demon disparagingly. They suddenly saw his eyes widened as he sent a series of messages before finally walking over to the lever on his accord and activating the stone door. The stone door slowly lifted up with a grinding sound. And there stood Gufei, slowly being revealed to everyone behind the door. Gufei held onto a long sword not fit for a mage in his left hand and a sack in his right hand. A light smile hung across his face as looked at the rest of the group and delightedly exclaimed, "Took you guys long enough." They were speechless as they stared at him stupidly. Gufei walked out from the door as he threw the sack he was holding toward the employer's arms while saying, "Here's what you wanted." The employer caught it and was taken aback as he looked into the sack. Young Master Han and the rest were very surprised and speechless before Sword Demon broke the silence. What happened? I found a secret passageway a while back. All of you had left without a trace, so I took that path which led me to the lair. I ended up killing Sato, and now I brought his head here, Gufei said. How did you kill him? Young Master Han's face was still frozen in disbelief. Gufei flourished his blade and pointed it at young Master Han. How is that possible? Young Master Han said as he raised his hand and flicked the blade aside, heading inside as the rest of them followed closely. The body of the now headless Sato lay on the ground. Young Master Han had encountered Sato once, so he asked, Why is Sato topless? Everyone looked at him oddly. To be honest, anyone would suspect young Master Han's sexual orientation given how he looked. Young Master Han did not bother addressing the group as he simply continued to mutter, "He wasn't like this when I was here last time." Gu Fei shrugged to indicate he did not know the answer as well, only saying, "Well, all I know is that he wasn't wearing any armor." "Oh, so that's it." Everyone gained some sort of understanding. The way they saw it, a mage's damage would be astonishingly high if the opponent had no armor of any sort. Mages excelled in long-ranged attacks and Sato only possessed close combat capabilities besides his special attack. Gu Fei must have used some unknown method to immobilize Sato without him getting close and slowly whittled his health away. Although they could see Sato's body marred with slashes, they just assumed that Gu Fei might have inflicted all those wounds after Sato had died. He even carried that longsword in order to maintain the charade and prevent others from learning his unique fighting style as a mage. They all had such thoughts except for Sword Demon, who stared at Sato's corpse in a trance. "Where's the secret passage you mentioned?" young Master Han asked. Since they thought Gu Fei was trying to hide his fighting style, these pros were polite enough to brush the matter aside. "Over here." Gu Fei beckoned them to a corner. Fortunately, the stone door could be pushed aside by combining the strength of everyone. Gu Fei happily said, "We should leave this way. We won't have to fight any monsters on the way again." These pros were a little morose at the moment, quietly following Gu Fei and using the secret passageway. The henchman with the key to the secret path from before did not respawn when they got to the exit and pushed open the iron plate covering the surface. They were not far from the cave entrance, so they exited the cave in no time. "Quest complete," young Master Han declared. The employer nodded his head and proceeded to retrieve the money pouch from his pocket without another word. Young Master Han received it and took a peek before nodding his head. "It's the right amount. As for what you promised before, I hope you will honor the agreement." The employer nodded as his face expressed immense excitement. "Of course, I will." "Your mercenary group's strength is truly remarkable." "It wasn't till now that I made sense of the entire situation." "What do you mean?" young Master Han asked. The employer laughed. "You don't have to keep me out of the loop anymore. The plan was to feign an attack on the front while striking for real in the back, right? You used the rest of the group to control the influx of bandits while you let Miles Bro here use the secret passageway to solo the boss. You previously mentioned how Sato would summon his fellow bandits. But since all of you were engaging the enemies by the main entrance, the summoned monsters had no way to enter, which gave Miles Bro the perfect setting to solo kill the boss." He. "To think you would even act like you're clueless about the secret passageway." "There's no need for that. I won't reveal your strategy." "Even if I reveal it, how many of them out there can solo kill a boss like Miles Bro here?" As he said all this, the employer showed a face of immense admiration toward Gu Fei. "What are you saying?" Gu Fei was at a loss. "Hey, nothing. Absolutely nothing. If I have any other issues in the future, I'll definitely look for you guys. I'll take my leave first." The employer flashed a thumbs up toward Gu Fei as he turned to descend the mountain. "What's he talking about?" Gu Fei asked the crowd of pros before him. They were all left rather embarrassed. Young Master Han cleared his throat. "Ahem. Did you manage to get anything good from taking down Sato?" "Nothing at all," Gu Fei said. "I did find 2 money pouches from his hut though." Gu Fei took them out and handed it over to young Master Han. Young Master Han was stunned for a bit before he finally took it and waved his arms at the rest. "Let's go back and split the reward." They all replied in agreement, yet they sounded listless. This was not the usual reaction people would have when talking about splitting rewards. Ray's bar had seemed to become this bunch's rendezvous point. All were subdued as they got back to Yunjuan City and made their way over. Ray was already accustomed to their presence and he pointed them toward an empty room. They entered and got seated. Young Master Han reached into his pocket and the 3 money pouches with the gold coins were emptied on the table. This pile of gold coins could be viewed as an enormous fortune already, considering that most players were still barely making a few dozen silver coins. "Let's hear it from everyone how we should split all these," young Master Han said. Nobody said a thing. If it was up to Gu Fei, he would have wanted to have it distributed equally and be done with. However, he had no idea if there were any unspoken rules of sort among online gaming pros, so he decided to keep his mouth shut. As for the rest of them, They were hesitating on whether they should take the coins or not, since Gufei's actions of sneaking in through a secret pathway and soloing Sato had rendered what they did worthless in comparison. "Say something. Why are you all so quiet?" Young Master Han had no idea as well, pushing the difficult conundrum to everyone. "Let's split these equally." Brother Assist spoke. Young Master Han was surprised. While some of them seemed as if they did not contribute much, they nevertheless expended quite a bit of effort and time. No one would be willing to just hand over all the gold to Gufei, but it was somewhat shameless to ask for an equal distribution. He had not expected anyone here to be thick-skinned enough to actually suggest it in this case. They were all renowned online gaming pros after all. While they were all skilled, it was necessary to be gracious with everyone. Upon hearing Brother Assist's suggestion, Gufei sighed in relief. In the end, it was an equal distribution. He immediately agreed. "Yes, let's do that." Everyone could see that Gufei's words and actions were not done in mockery and immediately livened up. This was a huge reward in any case. In the end, it still fell onto young Master Han to divide the pile into 6 portions before finally grabbing a few coins from each portion and creating a somewhat bigger pile that he pushed toward Gufei. "You should get more since you put in the most effort with that solo kill." "Is that so? I'll take it." Gufei was not being modest at all and extended his hand to collect the pile into his dimensional pocket. Once he was done, he patted his robe and got up. "All right, I'm leaving." "Leaving? Where to?" They were shocked. "Offline, of course. I've still got work tomorrow." Gufei said. "Oh, go ahead then." They had no idea what else to say. "See you later." Gufei waved to the group, and coolly turned away. He was really logging off, only it was not for work tomorrow. Gufei was definitely not like the average player who spent his whole day in the game. Every morning, afternoon, and night, he would practice his kung fu, never once missing a session. It was just about the time for him to go practice and limber up his body. Gufei left as the 5 pros stared blankly. None of them made the first move to take their respective share of coins off the table. Once again, it was young Master Han who first made a move, smiling toward Brother Assist as he played with a gold coin. "Brother Assist, you're really something else." "What?" "I found it somewhat awkward to suggest an equal distribution." "That was so unlike you." Young Master Han's words had a hint of ridicule in them. Brother Assist returned his smile. "Are you teasing me? I honestly thought it wasn't that overboard to ask for equal distribution." "Oh? It's like what that guy said earlier. I think it was really because we were clearing the monsters by the entrance that resulted in Sato having no additional bandits to support him, giving Gufei the opportunity to solo the mountain bandit leader." Young Master Han thought about it for a while and nodded. "You're right. That fight was quite hectic. I even thought it was the system respawning additional monsters. In retrospect, it was actually the additional bandits that Sato called for that we ended up blocking as they tried to make their way over. How fortunate that I healed so perfectly, or else we would have been wiped out." Ha 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 ha. Everyone's expression changed. They all regarded Sword Demon with great respect, seeing how difficult it was to be partnered with this sort of person. "Yeah, so I didn't think equal distribution is too much. It's just a little bit more." "You gave him a little extra at the end, right?" Brother Assist immediately said. "Indeed, that makes sense. Let's all take our reward." Young Master Han called out. All took their portion into their pockets, yet the atmosphere was still the same as before. The money issue was nothing more than a trifle to these pros. What left them contemplative was that there existed a player who did something none of them could accomplish. They were all thinking of the same thing and could only come away with a forced smile. Soloing a boss, even if the boss was naked and without any armor at all, let alone just topless. "There's no way I could do that." Chapter 23, the joy of helping players were still required to go to the designated safe zones to log off. So after Gufei left Trey's bar, he quickly headed to a safe zone. On his way there, he passed by the Hall of Guild Creation and found many people coming and going. Now that most players had finally reached level 30, guilds were being formed like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. A few days ago, Fireball had asked about Gufei's preparation to join any particular guild. When he saw Gufei's disinterest in the matter, Fireball could only drop the question and conscientiously choose a guild on his own. Has Fireball found a guild yet? Goofy asked in his heart as he pulled up his friends list and saw that Fireball was offline. Fireball had a rather irregular online schedule, so it was rather hard to keep track of his activities in-game. As he was pondering on this, he accidentally collided with someone. Goofy staggered a bit. He really could not stand his weak physique in-game. Thankfully, he had equipped Eddie's emblem. Without the extra 6 stat points to strength and endurance, he might have been knocked flat on the ground. "It's you." Goofy raised his head and recognized the person who had bumped into him. It was Zyzioshin. SHH. Zyzioshin motioned him to be quiet. "Help me." With that, she hid behind Goofy's body. Hiding the lady's slim figure from view was pretty easy with his body frame that was toughened by kung fu. Just as Goofy was about to ask her what was going on, he saw a little girl hurriedly rush from an alley. After looking around and only seeing Goofy, she stared at him and asked, "Hey, have you seen a woman pass through here?" "Kids nowadays are so rude." Goofy furrowed his brows. The Goo household was a wushu family that preserved many old traditions. They were naturally stricter in observing proper etiquette compared to the regular households. There were not many restrictions or rules to follow in the family, but respecting the elders and teachers was one social propriety everyone in the Goo household rigorously adhered to. Hence, younger people were expected to respectfully greet their elders at any given opportunity, even in the wee hours or when they just woke up. "Hey, I'm talking to you." The little girl shouted once more when she saw Goofy not responding. It was hard to have a good impression of the kid, but Goofy still understood her feelings. She must have been duped by this scammer. So he nodded his head. "Yes, I have." "Where did she run off to?" the girl anxiously inquired. Goofy sidestepped, raised his hand, and pointed toward the person behind him. "She's right here." "Ugh." Zyzioshin staggered forward. She had leaned onto Goofy's back as she was trying to reduce her visible areas. Goofy's sudden movement had forced her to lose her footing. Goofy stared at Zyzioshin icily, but the little girl had unexpectedly rushed forward and helped Zyzioshin up. "Sister Yon, are you alright?" Hearing how the brat addressed Zyzioshin, Goofy realized he had misunderstood the situation. Zyzioshin angrily glared at Goofy before she smiled at the little brat. "I'm fine." The little girl stared at Goofy and could vaguely tell something was up, so she asked once more, "Sister Yon, what were you doing?" "Kitty, I just couldn't agree with your request," Zyzioshin replied. "But we really couldn't find anyone else," the brat said. "Just wait a little longer. I'm sure you'll find someone eventually," Zyzioshin bargained. "Please. You have to help us." The brat pulled Zyzioshin's hand, shaking it as she pleaded. Zyzioshin stubbornly shook her head and remained silent. Goofy could not help but interject, "Just help them already." Zyzioshin rolled her eyes. "You don't know anything, so shut up and mind your own business." Goofy shrugged at the kid, showing his inability to help. He then proceeded to head toward the safe zone. He had not walked for more than 10 meters before he heard someone hollering from behind him. "Hey, wait a second." Goofy turned his head and saw Zyzioshin rushing toward him. "What?" Goofy asked. "I know you're the kind of person that loves helping people, so why not help them?" Zyzioshin said. "With what?" Goofy asked. "She's asking me to help them make up the required number to nominate their guild," Zyzioshin said. "That's it? Then why don't you help them?" Goofy retorted. "Me? Hey, you know what sort of person I am. Having any form of relations with me is problematic," Zyzioshin explained. "That's true. I guess helping them will be meaningful based on what you said. It would spare them the trouble of being dragged down by your existence," Goofy said. You must definitely join something so meaningful." "I refuse," Goofy said. "Why?" Zyzioshin was curious. "You can't fool me. You only need 20 people to nominate for a guild. Taking into account the number of players in Parallel World, hitting that target is very simple." "Why would there be an issue with finding 20 people?" Goofy scoffed. "She's right there. You can ask her if you don't believe me." Zyzioshin was helpless. Goofy regarded her with suspicion before walking toward the girl. "Are you guys short of people to nominate your guild?" The brat nodded her head. "Yup. We searched for so long, and we are now just one person short." "Is it that difficult to find just one person?" Gufei couldn't make sense of this. Yes, that's why we must ask Sister Tian to help us, the girl replied earnestly. It's settled, Kitty, Ziziotion laughed. Let's go over there right now. Really? The little girl bounced excitedly, looking gratefully toward Gufei. Thank you. It's nothing really, Gufei said. Let's go. The girl happily bounced toward the Hall of Guild Creation. Let's. Ziziotion nudged Gufei and chased after the girl. The Hall of Guild Creation was filled with people. The noise made conversing difficult as everyone was shouting to attract people. 4 Pathways Guild. We've accomplished all kinds of quests before. Please come and help nominate. Babe, come join our Zeok Guild. There are weekly wages. Home of the Warriors. Our guild leader is a level 30 warrior. Those who love the warrior job class should come and nominate. Hearing all these touting and shouting had led Gufei to believe Ziotion's words firmly. Although there are many people in Parallel World, getting 20 people to nominate a guild doesn't seem easy. Maybe that's the reason why Fireball has a hard time finding a guild. There are too many people here. Kitty, go to Ziaki's side and we'll go to the nomination spot. Once we are there, I'll message you and let Ziaki accept the nomination, Ziziotion said to the girl. The girl nodded and headed toward the other side of the building. Ziziotion dragged Gufei toward the other direction. There were even more people cramped near the nomination spot. The people who came here to nominate guilds were treated like prey by those soliciting players. Gufei's appearance had already resulted into several people coming over to attempt to poach him. Brother, what's your level now? Come join our guild. Nominate us, nominate us. Someone came from the right as well. Don't you dare poach him. Ziziotion swiftly displayed her vulgar self. He's mine. Don't you dare take him. She grabbed Gufei and headed toward the nomination window in a huff. The game had certain facilities deliberately created to not be contextually jarring for the ease of the players. The nomination spot, for example, equipped a touch user interface. While this by and large clashed against the design of the game, there were simply no other alternatives. As they queued up, Ziziotion sent off a message once they had reached the touchscreen interface and nodded toward Gufei. Alright, go ahead and nominate. What's the name of the guild? Gufei had already touched the search bar. Amethyst Rebirth, Ziziotion said. Gufei entered the name and saw it truly had been nominated by 19 people, with one person short of the required number to officially create the guild. He went ahead and nominated it himself. Ding! The system notification sound rang in his ear as Gufei received a series of system messages. Amethyst Rebirth Guild has been created successfully. Player 1000 Miles Drunk is now a member of Amethyst Rebirth Guild. Please refer to the relevant guild tab with regard to guild matters. Done. Gufei said and turned around. Yet all he saw was Ziziotion hurriedly squeezing through the crowd with great effort. Oh, no! Instantly, a sense of ominous foreboding filled his heart as Gufei chased after her while he shouted for her to stop. Sadly, his effort was for naught. Although Gufei was agile, he had no way of displaying his nimbleness in this crowd of people. He could only stare at Ziziotion slowly disappear into the sea of humans. What are you up to? Gufei pulled out his friends list and fired off a message. Nothing. It's a good thing. Ziziotion said. Explain yourself. Gufei said. You'll understand when you open up your guild tab and take a look. Ziziotion replied. Gufei opened the guild tab as he forcefully squeezed ahead. All the guild members' level and job class were clearly listed before his eyes. There were all sorts of job classes. As for levels, they were not very high. There were only 2 level 30 members. Gufei's name was actually ranked on top, meaning, he was the member with the most experience earned. It was at this moment that Gufei felt stunned. The column that showed the gender of the players had displayed a row of female besides Gufei's male. From number 2 all the way to 20, there was a total of 19 female. This guild. Why were there only women? At this moment, a series of Player X would like to add you as a friend message notifications resounded unceasingly. A quick sweep of all these requests of friendship made him realize that they were all names from the guild. The first message read, "Who are you? How did you get into our guild?" Cinder, July 1. Chapter 24, Amethyst Rebirth come out. We're outside the Hall of Guild Creation. July sent another message. Gufei sighed and squeezed his way toward the entrance. He did not wish to admit it, but he had fallen into Ziziotion's scheme once more. Although it was difficult to judge if this was a good or a bad thing, Gufei nevertheless did not enjoy the feeling of being duped. Gufei immediately identified the person who had called him out upon leaving the Hall of Guild Creation. A group of women could be seen gathered around a corner of the eastern wall of the Hall of Guild Creation. Once Gufei stepped off the premise, a hand immediately shot out to point at him. It was the little brat Zizuyoshin had called Kitty. "That's him!" the kid yelled. The girls turned their heads in unison, their eyes staring straight at Gufei. Gufei immediately counted 6 people in their group. He should have no issues handling that much if it came down to a fight, so he stood at where he was with a calm expression. The 6 standing next to one another walked toward Gufei. Having the attention of 6 women should have been something to be proud of, but Gufei's heart squeezed and hands became sweaty instead. This was because he could feel killing intent emanating from them. There were many players passing by that stopped on their tracks and looked at Gufei enviously. They carefully examined the 6 ladies. They became even more mad with envy when they realized that the 6 were all outstanding beauties. All the male players swallowed their saliva and audible gulps escaped when the 6 ladies walked up to Gufei. "1,000 miles drunk?" asked the girl with a petite frame and short hair standing right in the middle of the 6 as she stared at him. Gufei nodded his head. He immediately felt a sense of closeness to this short-haired lady. Though, it was not because of some romantic feelings and instead was due to her equipment. Gufei could tell from a single glance that the lady had a fighter job class. This was the job class that Gufei wanted the most at the beginning. Alas, he did not become a fighter due to a twist of fate. After he got into the game, he found out there were lesser players who chose the fighter job class as compared to the other classes. Apparently, it was due to the difficulty of maintaining particular body postures when the players tried to execute certain moves or skills. Many players who chose the job class found it to be physically demanding. Thus, the newer players who had heard about this avoided it on purpose. Now that Gufei finally had the chance to meet a player that chose to be a fighter, he could barely hold back his excitement. Gufei assumed that anyone who chose this job class must be a kung fu lover like himself. "I'm July," the lady introduced herself. "Hello," Gufei nodded in response. "I'm the guild leader of Amethyst Rebirth." "So I see," Gufei said. "Could I trouble you to explain to us how all of this happened and how you ended up in our guild?" July said icily. "Well, I was a little confused by this at first, but I think I somewhat understand what has happened now. I will need her to explain as well in order for everyone to get the whole picture." Gufei pointed at Kitty. July looked at Kitty as Kitty looked intently at Gufei as well. "Zizuyoshin said you guys were short of one person to nominate your guild and needed my help to do so," Gufei began. "We were missing one because we have very strict requirements with regard to our guild members," July explained. Gufei recalled the guild member list having 19 female in the gender column and nodded his head. "Yes, I saw." He then looked at Kitty. "What did Zizuyoshin say to you?" Kitty stared at him as she said, that she promised to join a friend's guild so she couldn't join ours, and that the friend is you. Gufei recalled what had happened back then and said, "She told you she needed to inform me about not wanting to join my guild in order to join yours. So you thanked me when she brought me back because you assumed that I didn't make things difficult for her and allowed her to join your guild, am I right?" Kitty nodded her head. "As for me, I thought Zizuyoshin was helping her to convince me to nominate for your guild, so she thanked me." Gufei addressed the 6 ladies. "Is everything clear now?" "It was a misunderstanding orchestrated by her. That damn Ziyoshin." July stamped her feet. "Afterward, she got rid of Kitty to prevent her from seeing me doing the nomination. I don't know how she found a loophole that allowed a male player to join your guild," Gufei said. July sighed. "There's no way to verify the identity of a nominator for a guild. We would normally close the guild's nomination, and would only temporarily open it when we found a suitable candidate. This is to prevent random people from nominating themselves in." "I see," Gufei sighed. All the ladies looked at one another and could not help but complain about Zizuyoshin's actions. But all they did was grumble and did not actually show real hatred toward her, so Gufei was puzzled. The ladies gathered and whispered a distance away from Gufei. Seeing that it was no longer his problem and that it was rather late, he quickly made his way to the safe zone to log off. The ladies discussed for a while and finally came to a decision. "Hey, where is he?" July turned and was ready to speak to Gufei, only to find that he had already disappeared without saying goodbye. "Where did he go?" July pulled open her friends list and it showed 1000 Miles Drunk was offline. What's with that guy who leaves before finishing a conversation? July angrily stamped her feet once more and the rest began their tirade against Gufei this time. Aku. Gufei, who had gone offline and rushed to the rooftop to practice his kung fu, suddenly sneezed. Just who is mocking me behind my back? Gufei wondered as he thought of the old wives' tale about sneezing. When he logged in the next day, Gufei's message notification immediately lit up. He opened his inbox and saw that it was from July. WRU. A series of 7 WRU showed how much regard she had for the number 7. What do you want? Gufei replied. What's wrong with you? You left without waiting for us to finish our conversation. July lamented. Was there anything else? Gufei asked. Come here and we'll talk, July replied. Where? Unit B17 on Charlotte Street. Yunjuan City might not be as big as a metropolis, but navigating around it was still hard. This was because the city was unlike the ones in traditional MRCs where players could walk from the east gate to the west gate in just 2 or 3 steps. The towns were already big enough that it required name for streets to differentiate between roads. There were many for sale houses lining up the streets as well, whereas the area the system occupied was actually just a small corner. Unit B17 on Charlotte Street. Wonder who opened another shop, Gufei thought to himself as he headed to the street. In online games, a player's level decided how the economic market flourished. As more and more players got to transom of level 30, a hodgepodge of industrial occupations, such as smelting, weaving, mining, planting, etc., began popping up in-game. While a majority of players chose to carry big sacks and sold their wares right off the streets, a sizable portion of the pay-to-win players went ahead and bought houses along the streets to convert them into shops. Thus, other than the need for street names, the numbers for different housing units came to be as well. B17. Gufei repeatedly muttered the unit number as he walked down the street looking for it. When he finally spotted it, he could not help but do a double take. The shop is unlike the others that had readable signs at a glance. This shop hung a strange picture of a diamond-shaped object painted a faint purple luster where other shops would usually hung their signage. Gufei could not tell what it was and did not wish to risk going directly inside, so he went and knocked on the door lightly a few times instead. The door quickly opened to reveal July as well as a few other ladies within. Gufei had met some of them yesterday, while the others were strangers to him. He followed July into the house and found a seat. All the other ladies took the chance to size up Gufei. The expression each of them showed varied. Many showed a look of resistance, while quite a few looked as if they could not be bothered. Embarrassingly enough, none of the ladies showed any signs of welcoming him. Even July, who was seated right across from him, seemed irritated at his presence. What is it you wish to talk about? Gufei straightforwardly asked July. Gufei wanted to quickly put this matter behind him and leave, especially since he knew he was not welcomed here. July opened her mouth but could not find the words as her face showed plenty of hesitation. Just be honest, Gufei smiled. I thank you for helping us nominate the guild, July started. This was a very neutral opening. Yet Gufei knew that this was not the main topic. He nodded his head slightly and waited for July to continue. You can't tell the criteria we have toward our members when you look at our guild composition, right? Gufei immediately knew what she wanted to say and he was sincerely happy as he quickly interrupted her. Don't worry. I know what you mean. Ha 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 ha. Alright. I'll just remove myself from the guild and we can resolve this matter. Gufei quickly pulled up the guild tab and was about to remove himself from the guild. July's expression changed as she shouted at him, Don't. Chapter 25, Guild. Oh, Guild. Everyone's eyes shot over. Some of the ladies nimbly rushed over. They surrounded Gufei instantly. You bastard, what do you think you're doing? A lady bellowed as she heavily slapped the table. Gufei took a look at her and felt another surge of excitement. Yet another fighter. It was a lady whom he had met for the first time today. She was pretty good looking and had healthily tanned skin in a shade of chocolate brown. Gufei observed this in passing. But what truly caught his attention was that there were actually 2 among these ladies that chose to become a fighter. Gufei began to look around and observe the others as he thought of this, hoping to find a third woman who had chosen the fighter job class. From the lady's perspective, Gufei had seemingly ignored her question, eyed her for a moment, and then turned his gaze away to look for another target. His wandering eyes were like a pair owned by a lecherous person who was trying to pick the right prey, and she was the first to be eliminated from the selections. She felt nothing but endless irritation when she looked at him. She stood up promptly, blocking Gufei's view, as she threateningly demanded, "What are you looking at, huh?" Gufei furrowed his brows. In this day and age, such a coarse and uncouth woman could only be seen in movies. Online games sure are fertile ground for vulgarities. Gufei mused internally as he shook his head. Nothing at all. Gufei's look of disregard had thoroughly agitated the hot-tempered woman. She raised her fist and was about to fight with him when July shouted, "Lai." It was nothing. He said he wanted to leave the guild. The woman called Lai froze for a while as she unwillingly lowered her fist. The faces of the ladies that surrounded Gufei had also shown varying degrees of surprise. "What's the matter?" Gufei scanned the expressions of their faces. "Am I mistaken? Don't you all want me to leave the guild?" The ladies felt uncomfortable upon hearing his words, some even showing a sliver of contrition. July could only express frankly what she had meant before. "You're not mistaken. We do want you to leave the guild. But not right now." "What do you mean?" Gufei was confused. "Do you really not know, or are you playing the fool?" The prideful Lai announced loudly, "Guilds have a minimum requirement of 20 players. Once a guild drops below this number, it will be disbanded." "Oh, guess you all have to quickly find someone so I can leave the guild?" Gufei asked rhetorically. For some reason, the image of young Master Han flashed through Gufei's mind. Who knew what would happen if that guy joined this guild? The ladies all looked at one another before July finally said, "We'll be quick about it. We just hope you'll bear with us for the time being." "No problem," Gufei laughed as he stood up, "just kick me out once you find someone suitable." "Are we done here?" "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." As Gufei stood up and walked toward the door, he felt a sense of stillness from his surroundings. He turned around and noticed the atmosphere in the room was somewhat frigid. He spied Lai staring at him at that very moment, so he nodded and said, "Lai. Yup, that's a fine name." "What do you mean by that?" Lai's personality was indeed as intense as raging flames. Hearing Gufei's words that seemed to hint toward something deeper, she swiftly sprinted toward him. She unerringly appeared behind Gufei and threw her right fist at him. Gufei had silently opened the door at the same instant and his body flashed out. He turned and happily said, "I'm leaving." Then he closed the door behind him. Spurring meteor. Gufei silently thought to himself as he walked out onto the street. That was an attack skill from the fighter job class. It was faster and more powerful than a normal attack and it had the added effect of sprint. No matter how I look at it, fighters are just way cooler. Gufei lowered his head and studied his mage robe, feeling sorry for himself. Back in the room after Gufei left, silence settled in for half a minute. The first one to recover was July, who slowly made her way to the rooted Lai's side and wrung her hand. "Don't be so rash next time. He may have a high level but he's still a mage." His equipment looked pretty bad as well. "Had you misjudged and your fist struck him, he would have died instantly." Lila was startled as she turned back and looked at July. "He dodged it." "What are you talking about?" "It's as I said." "He dodged my fist," Lila said. The girls promptly surrounded the two, and someone asked while everyone gabbed, "Weren't you just scaring him?" Lila laughed bitterly. "I really wanted to punch his rude ass. I don't know how he did it, but he opened the door and dodged it." Everyone was somewhat speechless. Having been together for quite some time, they had some idea what each of them was capable of. Lila was not simply just a fighter, she was someone who was brave and ruthless since young. She was very adept at kicking, punching, and such ilk. Rumor had it that she even secretly went to a martial school to learn a few moves. The fact was this woman was better at fighting than most people. In the new fully immersive game, Parallel World, her speed could be seen as the fastest among all. When everyone held onto their weapons sloppily and stared at the monsters blankly, she had already ecstatically struck with her fists and feet all the monsters. Lila's level was not the highest among them at level 26. But when it came to PvP, she could easily fight 4 or 5 of them in one go. She was ecstatic with regard to this point. Gaming pros of the past might find this game to be a bad fit, but she was the opposite as she had learned some actual kicking and punching methods. She felt even more at home here since she had chosen to be a fighter. Coupled with her character and hobby, Lai did not shy away from PvP despite being a woman. What's more, she had yet to experience a loss even against opponents whose levels were higher than her. The wins she had garnered gradually made her feel that she was the world's #1 expert. Facing a mage like Gufei, she was confident her punch would cause him to lose all his teeth in one blow. However, he had simply opened the door and dodged her punch without missing a beat. This sort of gesture that barely cared for her actions displayed the air of an expert. Lai, do you think he has trained in martial arts as well? One of the ladies asked. No. Lai said with certainty. How do you know? Wouldn't he have gone with a fighter job class like me? Or at least chosen a close combat job class like warrior or thief? Instead, what did he choose? A mage? Is he an idiot? Lai stated bluntly. Maybe he's just honestly playing the game, unlike you who came here looking for a fight. Lai frowned to show her disdain. Lai, be serious for a moment. How do you think he dodged it? July questioned. It was an illusion. Lai blinked her eyes intently. It must be an illusion. Everyone slowly dispersed. Bitches, are you all looking down on me? Lai waved her fist and rushed over. They had no intention of being on the receiving end of her attack, so they streamed out of the door one by one into the streets. July watched the fleeing figures of everyone and could only laugh forcefully. That guy's not bad. A voice came from behind July. Xiaoluo, please don't be smitten just because he's a little good looking. July spoke without even looking to see who it was. What? I'm being serious. Don't you think so as well? Xiaoluo answered. True. I don't find him detestable. Somewhat friendly even, July said. So there's no need to snub him. Let's allow him join our activities until we find his replacement. July gave her an ambiguous reply. I'll go give this to him then. Xiaoluo approached the table July was sitting and took an emblem. HMPH. Didn't you say you're not smitten? July sniggered. I'm going to go and observe him some more before I say anything else. Xiaoluo laughed as she left the house as well. There were no more people around her. July laughed bitterly and shook her head. Sweeping her gaze around the room, she proceeded to the door. Even before she closed the door, she heard a voice that suddenly came from above her. So how was it? He's not bad, eh? Xiaoshan, you're always like this. Sooner or later, you'll give me a fright straight to my grave. July sighed. Nah, you're already used to it. Xiaoshan laid flat on the roof as she revealed her head to speak to July. Are you coming down? July asked. Of course. Xiaoshan said as she lightly landed with a flip. The house was rather tall, so Xiaoshan landed painfully enough that caused her to purse her lips. She quickly recovered and swept her gaze at the signage that hung the guild's emblem. Smiling, she said, to have your guild's base here. Not bad. With that, she entered the room. July was left with no choice but to follow her and close the door behind her. Xiaoshan did not take a seat. Instead, she stood by the windowsill and leaned against the wall as she asked, so how was he? I specially came here to find out how it went. Alright, stop your act. You were never that thoughtful. Did you steal someone's belonging and have to make a run for it again? July asked bluntly. Xiaoshan laughed lightly as her left hand tossed an item over. Here, this is for you. July's arm stretched out and caught the object. She opened her hand and saw a simple ring called Wooden Ring of Wind. It was an item that boosted agility and strength. Fighter job class players would not give up such a magnificent support item. The price for this sort of equipment that boosted stat points would increase, especially with the increased difficulty leveling above 30 would bring. July was naturally well acquainted with the value of this small ring, but she merely laughed lightly and casually tossed it back to Xiaoshan. What, do you not want it again? Xiaoshan did not express any surprise at her choice. July smiled without answering her. Xiaoshan did not say anything as well as she returned the ring back to her pocket. She turned her head toward the window and gazed outside for a while before saying, I know. Even if you had to pick between me and a complete stranger, you would still rather pick the latter to join the guild, am I right? We are friends, July said, but matters concerning the guild will affect more than just my personal interest alone. I know, Xiaoshan laughed, that's what I like about you. 1,000 miles drunk. How did you know that guy? July asked. He's someone I could not trick at all, Ziziocean said as she stared out the window. What do you mean? Remember what I told you before? Professional scammers like us depend on people's greed. No matter how intelligent they are, as long as they strongly covet something, I'll find a way to reel them in. As for him, he got away, Ziziocean finished. Chapter 26, Chain Quest. Gufei did not put the matters regarding the guild to heart, hurriedly leaving to meet someone by the fountain square in the heart of Yanjuan City. Gufei could already see Fleeting Smile, who was waving his hand with a face full of smiles, from afar. What's up? Fleeting Smile immediately asked when Gufei came over. I've something I wish you could advise me on, Gufei said. Fleeting Smile grinned. I am a scrupulous gaming employee, so there's a limit to the information you can get from me. Tell me what you can, and leave out what you can't, Gufei casually drawled. Go ahead. Gufei took out Eddie's emblem. Fleeting Smile casually glanced at the emblem at first and did a double take at it the next, totally disregarding Gufei who was next to him in the process. The emblem was like a firefly in the pitch darkness of night, capturing his entire attention. Where did you get this? Fleeting Smile snapped back to his senses and grabbed Gufei's hand as he pulled the emblem close to examine it in greater detail. Gufei narrated what had happened as Fleeting Smile stood rooted to the spot. I went to the official website last night to have a look, yet I couldn't find any information regarding it. So I decided to ask you. Tell me if you can, and I won't ask further if you can't, Gufei said. Fleeting Smile lifted his hand and pinched his own face to confirm this was not a dream, as well as to remove the shocked expression that had settled on his face as he stood like a statue. He took a deep breath and said, "This is a quest item." "I know that," Gufei said. "Compared to the usual quests, this quest is quite special. We call it a chain quest," Fleeting Smile explained. Chain quest? Gufei felt his head becoming clear as he remembered coming across this term on the website. Compared to an ordinary quest, it was much more complicated and random. There was a reason why it was called a chain quest. If a normal quest was formed by a single task, then putting in a number of tasks together would form a chain. Thus, it was known as a chain quest. There were many such tasks all over the game, so even an average street might contain a normal quest that could become part of a chain quest. The system freely formed the sequence and casually placed the countless tasks of a chain quest everywhere in the game. It then proceeded to choose from the numerous plots the game had and link it toward the relevant task. The system accordingly gave a reward for the completion of a task with regard to its level of difficulty. Once a player finished a chain quest, the system would choose from another set of tasks and would sequence a new chain quest. Although the number of chain quests would never change, the content would never be repeated. While it was possible for the system to sequence an exact replica of another chain quest, the chances were infinitesimally small. Such a design meant it was not difficult to uncover a quest chain. The various ways players could trigger the conditions were neither too strange nor too incredible. However, whether the chain quest could be successfully completed after finding it depended entirely on the player. As there were many ways a chain quest could be arranged by the system, it was entirely possible for one step to be as simple as delivering an item and the next step to be as difficult as battling high-level monsters. Therefore, it was not improbable for players to acquire a quest chain at level 0 but only be able to accomplish the next step at an extremely high level. The quest chain Gufei had picked up was actually not too difficult to trigger. It was a fairly normal quest called the Kidnapped Eddie, obtainable in the later stages of the game. But the key point here was exactly that, the later stages. A good example would be how the players handled the game with their current standards. Legendary gamers like Young Master Han and Sword Demon came up with a method to kill off Sato by trapping him in the small hut and slowly reducing his HP to 0. In actuality, the first one to be dead with that method would not be Sato, but rather Eddie, who was trapped in the corner of the hut with barely half a breath left. There would naturally be no way to attain the quest with a dead Eddie. There were two conditions the players must meet if they wished to keep Eddie alive and hear his dying wish. First, Sato must feel safe. This way, he would not feel threatened and immediately dispose of Eddie, who was right beside him. Second, Eddie must feel safe as well. This way, he would be at ease to relegate his task to the players. There was only one way to achieve both conditions, A player would have to solo kill Sato on his own. Sato would not feel threatened if there was only one opponent, only by killing Sato would Eddie be at ease to pass his final task to a player. If it was a normal quest, Eddie would only speak his parting words. But since Gufei had coincidentally triggered the chain quest, Eddie's parting words became his dying will, asking the player to carry on his unfinished business. No matter the case was, only a high-level and highly skilled player would have the ability to kill Sato alone. Fleeting Smile had some notion of Gufei's ability, yet he could not help but be taken aback after hearing about what Gufei had just accomplished. Fleeting Smile had considered the possibility of someone like Gufei to bring some imbalance in game, however, the game-breaking potential he had in mind was just limited to PvPs among the players, where individuals like Gufei would gain the upper hand. Never would he have thought that even the NPC bosses would not be a match for Gufei as well. Fleeting Smile had tuned out even though Gufei was still talking. As a core member among the gaming developers, he had already been instinctively considering ways to restrict players like Gufei in order to maintain game balance. Hey. Gufei's calls brought Fleeting Smile back from his thoughts again. What were you thinking just now? Gufei questioned. I'm asking you why the quest details weren't mentioned on the website. Oh. Fleeting Smile recovered. Chain quests are acquired by chance, so it's impossible for the site to have information on them. Players would need to find information pertaining to chain quests by themselves. Can't you give me a clue? Gufei asked. Fleeting Smile flashed Gufei a shy smile. I am a scrupulous gaming emplo, alright, I got it. Gufei was very straightforward. Guess I'll have to search on my own. I'm off. Take care. Fleeting Smile waved. You, too. Gufei turned and left. Gufei went back to his original grinding spot after traveling for 10 minutes. He had lost count of how many days he had stayed in this map ever since the experience points that was needed to level up skyrocketed once he reached level 30. A majority of players no longer solely depended on grinding monsters to level up, unlike Gufei, as the various quests of the game would also reward the players with plenty of experience points. While it might not be as efficient as grinding monsters, at least it was not boring. Running from place to place, talking to people, and occasionally engaging in fights, questing was truly much more interactive and fun. As for Gufei, he found grinding to be highly enjoyable since fighting monsters required the use of Kung Fu. If he had considered Kung Fu as boring and repetitive, he wouldn't have spent some time daily for 20-odd years practicing it, would he? Besides, he was playing Parallel World mainly to improve his Kung Fu skills. The reason for this was actually what Sword Demon had called as beak control. Parallel World had so many monsters for Gufei to engage in a fight. More importantly, this was the first time he was actually able to slash or strike others without restraint after so many years of practicing Kung Fu. When Gufei sparred with others every day in reality, he was often told to hold back. Every strike and move Kung Fu practitioners executed could not be fully unleashed. Although Gufei understood the reasoning behind this, he still could not help but feel frustrated. The real life was unlike the days of savagery and bloodlust and Jiang-Wu described in wuxia novels, which might have been able to fill the emptiness in Gufei. But now, he had this online game to fill the void within him. The opponents might be unable to meet him strike for strike perfectly, but at least he no longer needed to hold back when using Kung Fu. Gufei stretched and limbered up once he arrived in the map. He unsheathed his blade and dove straight toward the monsters. Nice, it really was much easier to grind now. Gufei knew Eddie's emblem, which gave him 30 extra stat points, had allowed him to experience this qualitative leap in power. The monsters around him were eliminated at a faster pace than before. He felt that the current grinding spot would no longer meet his required level of difficulty, so he decided to probe higher level maps instead. At this very moment, there was a pair of eyes not too far away intently watching Gufei's every move. Fleeting Smile. He followed Gufei after he had left with the intention to thoroughly understand the full extent of Gufei's capabilities. That speed. He put all his points to agility. Fleeting Smile pondered in his heart. He had a better understanding of the game compared to online experts like Sword Demon due to his status as one of the higher ranked game planner, whereas Sword Demon could tell Gufei had added points to agility. Fleeting Smile was even aware of how many points he had added within a 5-point discrepancy. There's strength too. But I think that's probably the effect of Eddie's emblem. Attack power. Fleeting Smile carefully calculated the equipment Gufei was wearing, the inherent attack power of his character, plus the monster's defense and health total, and he inhaled sharply. Every attack achieves the maximum damage possible. This is far too unnatural. We don't even dare to design an NPC that could do this sort of consistent damage output. This guy. Fleeting Smile's face twitched a little as he realized the reality of the situation. In Gufei's case, he was basically a person who already possessed a full set of skills with his kung fu. In all honesty, his kung fu was already considered to be similar to the skills found in-game. He had already started out with a fairly high skill proficiency rating, yet there was no telling what the limit to it was. To make matters worse, due to the design of the game, his skill would only become even more deadly as he leveled up and replaced his equipment for even more powerful ones. At this rate, shouldn't we restrict him? This was the thought Fleeting Smile had when he ended his sneaky observation and made his way back to the city's safe zone and logged out. As for Gufei, he had only casually flicked his eyes toward Fleeting Smile's departing figure as he resumed his grinding. Chapter 27, A Misunderstanding Caused by a Burlap Sack. Yixiao did not idle around when he went offline. His mind was still mulling over the oddity that was Gufei. After pondering for a while, he sprang up in an instant, leaving his office and heading straight to the game administration department of the company. The gaming company behind Parallel World was in fact a company that handled their own R&D and game administration. Yixiao was someone from the R&D department, and the department which was in charge of the daily activities and maintenance of the game was actually the game administration department. In the game administration department, there was a small group of people in charge of monitoring the various in-game data. Once an anomaly was detected, they would keep track of and analyze it further to check if the anomaly matched the settings of the in-game data. In short, it was a checkup to see if the players hacked the game. There was an old saying that went, while the priest climbs a foot, the devil climbs 10. No matter how advanced the technology used, being hacked was almost inevitable, even for a game like Parallel World that had achieved the full immersion technology. For online games, it was only natural to prioritize the elimination of hackers, as the benefits of having zero hackers outweighed the risks by far. Even though Parallel World was implemented with cutting-edge technology, which was impossible to be cracked by the work of individuals or rogue hacker groups, the company did not dare to be sloppy in this particular aspect. Some employees of the monitoring team were so shocked that they leapt from their seats when the office door was shoved open by Yixiao. It was not until they saw clearly who it was that they breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, it's Chief Yi. Have you noticed yet another bug that needs fixing?" As a core member of the R&D department, Yixiao constantly pointed out the bugs for the game designs before going to the monitoring team to make adjustment for the in-game data. They often collaborated for work, and since it was usually Yixiao who noticed the bugs before the monitoring team could fix it, everyone on the team usually addressed him as Chief Yi. Gaming account's name is 1000 Miles Drunk. "Do a checkup on the data of this account," Yixiao said. "That's..." The members of the monitoring team looked one another in the eyes, before one of them blurted out, "That's against the rules." Normally, anything that involved the in-game data for the game was out of bounds for someone from the R&D department like Yixiao. "There's something fishy about this player," Yixiao said. All were alerted by what Yixiao just said, as this was exactly something that they were in charge of. They stopped their on-hand tasks immediately to direct every data monitoring system at Gufei, who was currently grinding inside the game. Someone could be heard mumbling, nothing unusual could be detected at all. To be frank, if someone like Yixiao had to remind them personally to check on a suspicious-looking gaming account, it meant that the monitoring team had not been doing their job well. The entire team felt on edge right now. Yixiao did not even care about how they felt. He fixed his gaze on the screen, as he wanted to confirm something with Gufei's data. In the end, all the data monitoring systems had confirmed something for Yixiao. What he presumed before was right all along. The rest of the employees had their eyes fixed on the screen as well. After staring at the screen for a while, They all looked at one another to confirm before breathing a sigh of relief. The result from the monitoring system was apparent. This account did not rely on any external applications. However, Yi Xiao was still paying attention to the screen. Everyone followed along as they looked at one another once more. After observing for a while, everyone wore a surprised look. "Just who is he?" one of them asked. Yi Xiao remained silent. He had his reasons, of course. As stated by his boss before, all the employees were prohibited from playing the game directly. Even though his boss had turned a blind eye over this matter, he was still required to keep this a secret. The employees took a closer look, and one of them muttered, "This person manages to deliver maximum damage output with every single attack. Is that really not a result of hacking?" Gu Fei's remarkable performance had left these professional game employees skeptical of their judgment. But after another round of checking with all the monitoring systems, the result was still the same. There was zero hacking involved. "Goodness! Is he even human?" "Chief Yi, how did you find him?" one of them asked, astounded. "I heard it from the others." Yi Xiao spoke in an offhand manner before he changed the subject. "There's nothing wrong with this account, right?" "None at all." Everyone answered firmly. "And the thing he's doing is permitted, right?" "Of course," an employee smiled. "Maximum damage output can be delivered by the precision of attack and power. This is the concept which was designed by you and the rest of the R&D. You must be pleased seeing that someone is actually capable of doing this." "Yes, very pleased," Yi Xiao nodded. "Conventionally speaking, this person is the top expert of control for Parallel World already," one of them said. Yi Xiao laughed and waved his hand. "All right. There's no issue now that we are sure that the account isn't hacked. I am leaving, carry on everyone." On his way back to his office, Yi Xiao was still pondering on a question. 1,000 miles drunk, can he be considered as a game balance breaker? At this moment, the suspected game balance breaker Gu Fei was heartily practicing his kung fu in the map. All of a sudden, he received a message from Fireball, who was eagerly trying to invite Gu Fei for a drink. Gu Fei considered Fireball to be the first person he befriended inside the game. Even if they did not grind together, they would still meet each other once in a while. Recently, he had not been keeping in touch with Fireball. Gu Fei packed his stuff instantly and embarked on the road back to the city. The amount of weight Gu Fei could handle was actually very low. Unfortunately for him, he was very efficient during grinding, so there were heaps of items to loot every time he finished grinding. For this reason, he had to make a sack for himself to store all the miscellaneous loots. Unlike those items stored inside the pocket, Gu Fei could clearly feel the weights of these items when he carried them with his hands. At the same time, these items were not protected by the system. As of right now, Gu Fei was actually walking with much difficulty as he carried the burlap sack with him. He got a boost of strength from the emblem that he acquired today. That boost of strength meant he was able to grind at a faster rate and he managed to loot more items. Nothing really changed as his increase in strength was evened out by the heavier loot that he had to carry. As he passed by another map for grinding, his footsteps had gotten even heavier. He forced himself to walk 2 more steps before dropping the sack on the ground. He planned to rest for a few minutes as he leaned on a tree and gasped for air. The players grinding in this map had noticed this weird occurrence. A few players' eyes were glowing as they saw this, and the next second they could be seen scrambling over to where Gu Fei was. "Do you need help? Let me carry that for you." Several people rushed to the front of Gu Fei, and were yelling the same thing at him as they tried to push one another aside. "Oh, there's no need for that. I am actually, oh, you are too modest. Just let me help you." One of the players barged onward without waiting for him to finish his sentence. He grabbed Gu Fei's sack and swung it across his shoulder. His eyes were already looking afar as he said, "Tell me, where are you headed to?" "Yunjuan City," Gu Fei answered, "Let's go, then." The person said nothing more, and just dashed forward ardently. The others players around them all revealed looks of jealousy and unwillingness at what had transpired. "But I am not a NPC. I am a player, too," Gu Fei said after a while. However, the person, who was already way ahead, failed to hear what he just said. As for those who were still surrounding Gu Fei, they had certainly heard him loud and clear. After being dumbstruck for a moment, They proceeded to sneer at the person who had stormed ahead. All of them stifled their laughters so as to not alert that person. They all gave Gufei a big thumbs up. "Dude, you did that on purpose, right? Solid move, man, top notch." Due to the influence of trashy web novels, many players were itching to find hidden quests that could be set into motion by all kinds of mysterious events. All were looking forward to a day when they could have their own amazing encounter. Gufei's weird attire and the fact a burlap sack item was not available at the moment made people doubt he was a fellow player. Misunderstandings were inevitable these days whenever Gufei dragged along his huge sack buck to the city and passed by the grinding players in different maps. But every time that happened, Gufei would explain himself and the other players would leave dejectedly after using appraisal on him. Unlike the others, this particular player he met today was exceptional. He craved a hidden quest so much that he did not even bother to listen to what Gufei had to say and just snatched the burlap sack away. "Hey, you!" Gufei chased after him and yelled. The other person simply waved gracefully and said, "Nothing is stopping me from helping you carry this back to your destination today." Gufei kept his mouth shut. Considering that person had made such a firm decision already, he might as well just let him do as he pleased. Gufei was never one to force others to do things his way. "Carry it then if you are so eager to do it." Gufei was happy with his newfound easiness, and he walked leisurely behind the person. The person was equipped with heavy armor all over, and Gufei's burlap sack which was rested on that person's shoulder seemed very light by the way he was carrying it. It was obvious that his job class was a warrior, the one with the most impressive physical abilities. But the person seemed to be very skinny judging from his stature. Of course, a fat or skinny stature did not indicate how strong a player was in the game. A good example would be Gufei, who was as frail as paper in the game even though he had been honing his body for more than 20 years. From their current location, they still needed a few more minutes to reach Yunjuan City. Gufei noticed that the player helping him with the sack was standing proud and tall along the way. And this had him in anguish again as he thought, a warrior would have been a great choice as well if not a fighter. The physique of a mage is just too weak. Finally, the two reached the city, and the person put down the burlap sack from his shoulder as he gazed warmly at Gufei's eyes. "Thanks a lot." Gufei patted the person's shoulder, lowered himself to lift the burlap sack up, and proceeded to stagger forward. The other person was confused for a moment, but he snapped right back the next second and chased after Gufei as he said affectionately, "Where are you carrying all these to?" "I'll help you." "Oh, that won't be necessary. The warehouse is just in front of us, right?" Gufei said. "Warehouse?" The person was stunned. The warehouse was truly a short distance away from them, but it was something that was reserved for players. The person sensed that something was not right, and said to Gufei, "Are you?" "Hello, I am 1,000 miles drunk," Gufei said. Aren't you a NPC?" The other person had a dumbfounded expression. With a deep sigh, Gufei said, "I am not." Chapter 28, Fireball joins a guild? "The heck? Who the hell are you?" the person yelled while rushing at Gufei. "I just told you, I'm 1,000 miles drunk," Gufei calmly replied, and then he realized something. The person's shout just now sounded rather high-pitched and the voice clearly contained a hint of sharpness. Gufei carefully examined the person's face once more and was instantly taken aback. "You're a woman?" The person was wearing a full body, heavy armor, but under the helmet was clearly a woman's face. Her beauty was apparent, even though she was currently gnashing her teeth. The woman reached into her side pocket upon hearing his words. Gufei heard a whooshing sound and then a huge axe materialized in front of his very eyes. However, the truly terrifying fact was that she was holding it with only one hand, while her other hand was poised like a panther ready to strike. It was as if she could reach out and grab Gufei's neck at any given time, hoisting him up and cleaving him into pieces with her weapon. "Got a problem with that?" The lady produced a low growl. She had a versatile voice, allowing her to change pitch from high to low and vice versa. "None at all." Gufei blinked. It was undeniable that the woman looked powerful and intimidating. "What do you mean, then?" The lady lifted the huge axe and hung it right above Gufei's forehead. "That I'm very grateful that you helped carry my sack up to here. Honestly, carrying it takes a lot of effort for me," Gufei said. The woman showed some degree of shock at his statement. "You know what? Take this as a gift." "I don't really need it anyway," Gufei tossed a burlap sack over by the lady's feet. "Who wants your stuff?" the woman asked sarcastically. "I've got something on, so I'll take my leave." Gufei waved his hand and hurriedly walked away. "Hey, you!" Gufei had long since disappeared from the corner of the street that they were in by the time she shouted these words. The speed that the level 30 mage Gufei had after pumping all his stat points into agility was nothing to scoff at. The lady mulled something over for a bit before she lowered her head. Finally, she could no longer resist the temptation and picked up the sack. Her curiosity got the better of her and she opened it. "I'm only taking a look. It's not like I want any of his stuff," the lady mumbled to herself. Her decision turned into firm resolve after seeing what was actually inside. What are these things?" As the woman searched through the sack, she could not stop herself from muttering the same words. While Gufei's sack contained many things, their value was actually very little. Gufei was not an idiot after all. The items with worth were already placed into his dimensional pocket. The lady spent quite some time searching through the burlap sack, finding only countless useless loots, such as a pile of bricks, a bunch of rocks, a single glass bowl, and a rotten wooden stick. The items that the players had deemed worthless could all be found inside Gufei's burlap sack. In the end, the lady came to the conclusion that she had been trolled. Perhaps someone had recorded the humorous manner in which she stuck her head into the sack and searched through the items. She might find herself as the butt of everyone's jokes in a few days once the video got uploaded onto the forums. Thinking of that possibility, she heavily slammed her huge axe onto the ground, causing pieces of concrete to fly all over. A brutal warrior paired with an equally savage weapon. That strike just now was carried out with extreme graveness. "1,000 miles drunk, is it? You better not let me see you again," the lady thought with fury. "What a real pity about my sack." "Kuu." Gufei suddenly sneezed as he was thinking of how much he missed having his self-made burlap sack. At the same moment, he arrived outside the tavern. He quickly rubbed his nose and pushed open the wooden door. There were numerous system-operated taverns in Yunjuan City except for Ray's Bar. Since it was a sprawling city, many bars were spread all over it to accommodate all the players, as well as to better earn their money. The tavern Gufei had just entered was one of the most popular establishments in the area. Since it was the closest to the city gate most players were grinding, it was naturally everyone's first choice to rest at. The tavern was open from day to night, so the sounds of players' conversations filled the entire establishment 24/7. Fireball, who had already grabbed a good seat, stood up once he saw Gufei enter the tavern. "Drunk bro, over here." "Yo, what's his name?" Gufei cheerfully greeted back. Fireball felt dejected. He had even taken the effort to address Gufei properly, yet here he was calling him what's his name. It was no wonder the players around them threw him a disdainful look, thinking that he was the sort of person who stuck around the pros to leech off them. However, he could do nothing about this as it was all due to his gaming account name. He would still be a laughingstock had Gufei called him Fireball. Every time such a conundrum would pop up, the thought of dying would fill his heart. "Sit. What are you standing there for?" Gufei had already taken a seat and was patting the table to catch the attention of the momentarily frozen Fireball. "How's life? Found a guild yet?" Gufei understood what he was feeling right now, so he tried providing a new topic to snap him out of his depressing thoughts. Fireball indeed sat down once he heard the question and replied, "Nope. Although I did see one I'm interested in, so I'm trying to find a way to get in." "Is that so?" Gufei lifted the glass off the table. The glass was filled with red wine that was sold for 50 copper coins and was largely considered as the cheapest in-game liquor available. The said wine made the most sales as well. Many players were obliged to order something since they were in a tavern, but almost no one was willing to purchase a drink except for the cheapest one. This was because many of them thought that their hard-earned coins should be spent on more important things. "What guild caught your eye?" Gufei asked as he took a big gulp of the drink as if it was nothing more than water. "Amethyst Rebirth," Fireball said. "PFFTTTT." Gufei spat out half of the wine he originally had in his mouth. It was a blessing that he was a full agility-based mage, as he somehow managed to turn his neck and avoid spitting his drink all over Fireball at the last minute. "What?" Fireball was surprised at Gufei's strong reaction. "Nothing." I choked. Gufei coughed loudly as he asked, "What's so special about this guild?" "Drunk bro, have you not seen the forums?" Fireball replied with a question. Not recently, no, Goofy answered. On the player's interactive board, there are various threads for each major city in-game. Right now, many guilds are busily recruiting players on these threads. That's where I found this guild in our city's thread, Fireball spoke as his eyes glinted. Oh. Goofy sounded, letting Fireball continue his narration. Fireball shadily glanced around them before he moved his seat closer to the table as he whispered, "Drunk bro, you better not tell others what I'm about to tell you. It's already on the forums, why are you afraid others would find out?" Goofy asked. "No no no." Fireball anxiously responded, "That thread has long been buried. It took me quite a while to dig for it. It's a post made not long after the game started. Guess what sort of guild it is?" "What?" Goofy had pulled out the guild tab of Amethyst Rebirth and swept it a few times while he asked Fireball. "It's a guild of babes." Fireball's voice rose an octave in excitement, and his sentence ended up missing a key word. Goofy did not give this much thought. He had already met a few ladies from Amethyst Rebirth. As for them being babes, it depended entirely on what a person considered as a babe. Using Ocean as the standard, then none of them would make the cut. If someone was to be more specific in defining the term, then July, Lili, and another whose name he could not recall could be considered as beauties. Given how Parallel World projected the actual person's figure and features, some of those ladies would be considered as dishonest, immodest, or even excessively narcissistic if they believed themselves to be babes. "So drunk bro, you interested?" Fireball asked. Goofy smiled forcefully. Just how was he going to tell Fireball? "Let me read you their requirements," Fireball said as he took out a booklet from his pocket. He cleared his throat and began. "Number 1, able to stand on their own and not be too dependent on others." "How is it? I fit the criteria, yeah?" Fireball's voice cracked in his excitement. Goofy nodded. It was true that Fireball had not followed him and leached off experience despite Goofy being such an efficient monster slayer. This showed clearly that he was capable of standing on his own and not depending on others. Goofy's nod stirred Fireball's heart and he could not wait to continue listing the requirements. However, Goofy extended his hand and stopped him. "Although I think you probably fit the basic requirements listed, there's one thing you don't fit." "What?" "Didn't they mention they only recruit female players?" Goofy stated. "Drunk bro, how did you know?" Fireball was stunned. "Since you said it's a guild full of babes, it's obvious they only recruit female players," Goofy said. "I don't think so." Fireball scratched his head as he shared his opinion. "I think the requirements are just a pretense. The guild officials are attracting all the babes first. Then, they will use this bevy of babes to lure men in to create a first-rate guild. Once the leaders have recruited enough female players, they will definitely start accepting male players since they need people like me to be their knight in shining armor." Goofy sighed. He would have seen the merit of Fireball's reasoning as well had he not interacted personally with the members of Amethyst Rebirth. Those people actually saw him like the plague. It was barely a day since he had joined in and they already wanted him to quit the guild of his accord. Was that the action of a guild that wanted a male player to join in? Just as he was thinking of ways to explain things clearly to Fireball, Goofy suddenly heard someone nearby call him, "You're here too, 1,000 miles drunk." Goofy turned and saw a fellow member from Amethyst Rebirth. She was the one July referred to as Luo and someone whom Goofy might consider as one of the 3 beauties, provided that the standard was lowered. "Oh, hello." Goofy got up and greeted her. Fireball's eyes were filled with admiration when he looked at Goofy. Would learning Kung Fu cause one to be gifted in such areas? Fireball started to ponder if perhaps he should take Goofy as his teacher. Chapter 29. Repeating Fireball. Luo held onto her own glass and walked toward Goofy and Fireball's table. "Is it alright if I join you?" Luo said as she indicated the empty seat next to their table. Fireball was very excited. Every time he sat with Goofy, they would take up 2 seats out of the possible 3 or 4, leaving 1 or 2 seats empty to create such an opportunity. Goofy felt rather surprised by her question. He had initially thought that the lady only greeted them out of courtesy, yet she unexpectedly asked to sit with them. Goofy nationally was not an inhospitable person, so he nodded. "Go ahead. My name's Ruthless Falling Flowers 1, Luo introduced herself as she sat down. "That's a nice name," Gufei complimented. Is that the only way you know how to praise others? Luo snickered at Gufei. Gufei felt embarrassed once he recalled how his flippant use of the sentence back then had caused that hot-tempered Lady Lai to send a fist his way. What's your name? Luo asked Fireball gracefully. Fireball stared at her for quite a while before he covered his face and wept. What's up with him? Luo was perplexed. Gufei tried his best to hold back his laughter. He's called. He didn't finish his sentence, but rather dipped his finger into his wine and wrote the name on the table. Oh, Fireball. Luo laughed as well. Fireball reflexively tensed up, yet Luo simply laughed and said, "Don't worry, I'm not a mage." Fireball heaved a sigh of relief. He immediately livened up and began unloading his misery to Luo, telling her all the troubles the name had brought him. The way he said it seemed as if the burden of his name was so severe that it had formed a shadow in his heart, and that only a truly powerful surge of emotions, such as getting to know a lady like herself, could remove this shade. Seeing that Fireball no longer cared to discuss with him regarding guild matters, Gufei simply chuckled as he stood up and said, "Keep chatting you two. I'm taking my leave first." "Go ahead." "Bye." Fireball thanked Gufei's perceptiveness. "Wait." Luo stood up, causing Fireball to feel as if he had fallen into a frozen cellar. Gufei turned back to look at her. "I've got something for you," Luo said. "What is it?" Luo took out a small emblem from her pocket. It had a circular shape and a white background. The drawing was similar to the signage exuding a faint purple glow that could be seen hanging outside B17 on Charlotte Street. "What's this?" "Guild emblem. Everyone in the guild has one," Luo explained. "Ah, drunk bro. You joined a guild? What guild is it? Why didn't you mention it before?" Fireball already fired off all these questions with great intensity before Gufei could even speak a word. "Ah, this. Actually, it's a mistake. I'll only stay in this guild for no more than a few days," Gufei said. "That's not true," Luo laughed. "Xiaki doesn't exactly dislike you. She might convince the rest of the ladies to accept having a male player in the guild." "Ladies? Male player?" Fireball muttered before suddenly asking, "What's your guild name?" "It's the guild you were telling me about, Amethyst Rebirth," Gufei said apologetically. Pain filled his heart as he sought for Fireball's forgiveness. Fireball suddenly sprung up and earnestly looked at Luo and Gufei, loudly saying, "Sister Luo, since you don't mind one, surely you wouldn't mind two. I am Drunk Bros Jr., I'm like his shadow, so wherever he goes, I go as well. No one could separate us two brothers." Gufei felt embarrassed. He really wanted to declare to everyone that he did not know this man. Luo giggled impassively, "One more only makes two, so I don't really mind." Fireball was elated. "It's a pity that I have no say in this," Luo added. Fireball was on the verge of tears. Gufei, on the other hand, gazed at the emblem that Luo had placed on the table and said after a pause, "There's no need to complicate things. I'll just leave once you girls find a suitable person." "If that's the case, so be it." Luo retrieved the emblem from the table. Fireball was very bewildered as he stared at Gufei. He emotionally said, "Drunk bro, don't do that. Since you've been given the chance, you shouldn't just give up. You don't have to care about my feelings. You two can keep chatting, I'm leaving first." Gufei didn't even look at him as he turned around to leave. Fireball carried on shouting, "Drunk bro, I understand your feelings. From here on, I've already decided you'll be my brother forever." Gufei could no longer bear the crowd's look of amusement as if they were watching a comedy duo's live performance. He abruptly spun, raised his right hand, and hollered, "Shut up!" repeating Fireball. "Fire!" "Ah!" All the bar customers called out in shock. Repeating Fireball was a level 30 mage spell after all. Despite parallel world setting adjustment and the lowering of the experience points needed to ascend to level 30, some of the players did not reach that level yet. This was especially the case for mages who were known for having a more difficult time gaining levels in the game's early stages. None of the players in the tavern had seen a level 30 mage before, not to mention the level 30 spell. Hence, everyone was staring at the scene unblinkingly. In this virtual reality game, high attack, speed, or defense could not be compared to the coolness of a mage chanting and releasing a spell. Many players only realized this after personally experiencing the game. Thus, for countless nights, Many players cried into their pillows, "How wonderful would it have been if I had chosen a mage job class back then." Gufei was probably the only person who regretted being a mage in Parallel World. The annoyed mage aimed at Fireball and released the spell for the first time. Gufei might be the only mage as well that got to level 30 without using spells all the time. The crowd became filled with anticipation except for Fireball, who was flustered and absolutely clueless. However, repeating Fireball had yet to appear. "What's going on?" Gufei shook his finger with doubt. Magic could clearly be released with just bare hands. A magic staff only increased the damage of a spell, and incantations were not needed to be said either. The players, originally preparing for a breathtaking performance, all jeered. They thought that the person must have not reached level 30 yet and was simply shouting out the spell to scare others. Just when people lowered their guard, a flaming dragon left Gufei's fingertip and explosively shot out in a stream, causing even him to feel frightened. "Fuck, that's a really long casting time." Some rather quick-witted players already figured out what had happened. The flaming dragon quickly circled and formed into a string of fireballs as it flew toward Fireball and bombarded him. Ah! Fireball was enveloped in flames under the shocked gasp of the crowd. The tavern became still and quiet. In half a beat, a series of racking coughs broke the silence. "That hurts like hell!" Fireball yelled as he wiped his face with his hands, which was now streaked with black soot. "Eh?" Everyone was astonished. "What trash damage? This guy's nothing after all." Although mages were known for having the weakest physique in game, the damage they could deal was staggering. Everyone knew that the level 30 spell could normally instantly destroy any opponent, unless the opponent had plenty of health or had equipment with high magic resistance. Unlike Gufei, who wore a mismatched outfit, the others could easily identify that Fireball was a mage from his attire. A mage did not possess high HP in Parallel World. "Does that person have high magic resistance gear?" someone asked doubtfully. An expert with appraisal quickly said, "Nope. He's wearing common grade equipment." Everyone's attention therefore shifted toward Gufei. Based on the current analysis, mages would focus their stat points onto intelligence and spirit. These two attributes affected a mage's magic damage, casting time, and magic proficiency. Intelligence especially influenced damage and proficiency, whereas spirit mainly influenced the casting time. A recent rumor even claimed that once spirit reached a certain threshold, the cooldown time of the skill would be reduced. In this case, Gufei displayed a long casting time as well as a low magic damage. Everyone could only feel their suspicions accumulate. How could such a mage manage to survive and get to level 30? It must be because they're friends, so the other one held back, some player quietly analyzed. "You're right. Look, he's not even carrying a magic staff. But how did he have such a long casting time? Hey, didn't he add a few words before he casted the spell? Huh? It went like shut up. Could it be a hidden incantation that extends a spell's casting time?" someone excitedly asked. "Let's go and try it out." Many mages got up and hurriedly left the tavern. After a bit, various shouts of "shut up, 30 spell" traveled back to the tavern from outside that gradually went away. Gufei had also recovered at this moment. He felt that he was rather rash a while ago. "You, alright?" "Fire." "What's his name?" Gufei asked. "I'm fine." Fireball declared loudly, "Drunk bro, don't mind it. We're brothers after all. I won't get angry no matter what you do." "Alright, I'll take my leave, then." Gufei could not stand Fireball's antics anymore. "Can you still leave?" a voice came from behind Gufei. Gufei turned and saw a heavily armored warrior. A sense of foreboding instantaneously filled him. "It's you." Gufei laughed, recognizing the warrior that had helped him with his burlap sack. The female warrior's eyes were icy cold. Her right hand suddenly moved. Gufei had long expected the attack and he swiftly escaped outside while dodging it. "Don't you dare run." The female warrior brandished her huge axe and chased after him. Everyone from the tavern quickly followed the two. Gufei did not run off very far and was actually standing just outside the tavern. His hand now held a weapon like his opponent. The crowd was shocked at the sight of the sword in his hand as they knew very well that he was a level 30 mage. "Lady, what happened?" "Let's slowly talk this over," Gufei earnestly said, albeit he did not let his guard down. Just from their exchange from back before, it was easy to see that this woman had a very careless yet stubborn personality. Once she decided on something, she would go ahead and do it, just like when she decided to help him carry the burlap sack. At the moment, she wanted to use that axe to cleave him in two. Since that was her intention, she would naturally act upon it. Why would she speak to him any further? For her to speak once more, Gufei would have to wait for her to relieve her anger by hacking him. The woman truly did not listen to Gufei's words and just swung her axe as she closed in on him. Gufei dodged the blow and reciprocated by cutting toward her arm with a reverse swing. Clang! Gufei's heart froze for half a beat when he heard that sound. The way the strike vibrated through his arm told him without a doubt that his sword did not even scratch the woman's armor. Gufei's mage body had no attack power to begin with. The damage he could deal came purely from the weapon he held. Now that he had Eddie's emblem, his strength helped add a few more points to his attack power. Nonetheless, the fact that he was a physically weak mage did not change. The extra 6 stat points to strength that his mage body had acquired was still not a match for a strength-based warrior. Hence, penetrating the warrior's strong defense was not doable even with the combination of his 6 stat points of strength and the common grade weapons damage. Gufei truly had no way of causing any amount of damage to this heavily armored warrior. Chapter 30 Cyclone. Gufei finally encountered his first obstacle after having it easy playing the game so far. Using Kung Fu to defeat the female warrior opposite him right now might be easier said than done. The female warrior's defense was akin to that lower half armor worn by mountain bandit leader Sato back then. She did not even budge as Gufei struck her with his sword. The lady's entire body was being concealed by her armor and helmet, and only her face was visible. Gufei felt that striking her face might be overdoing it, seeing as they just had a little misunderstanding. It was not as if a deep grudge existed between them. It was just a little misunderstanding caused by a burlap sack. In reality, no matter how well made a suit of armor, it could not safeguard a person's entire body as there would always be opening near the joints. Those areas of the armor were deliberately given less reinforcement to provide a person a full range of motion or the ability to move freely. Unfortunately for Gufei, as realistic as the game's simulation was, it was still not possible for it to be realistic in every aspect. The person inside the armor was unusually agile, and Gufei's sword forcefully bounced back even when he slashed it at the joints of the body armor. Gufei and the lady traded blows for a few more rounds. He came to the same conclusion after he tried attacking her right wrist, left knee, and left shoulder. The armor was impenetrable. The harmless attacks had in fact reassured the lady. She was freed from all her worries now that she saw all the attacks, which Gufei inflicted on her, were ineffective. She swung her huge axe wildly, as she charged toward Gufei as if she was a huge windmill. Gufei was left with no choice but to dodge the barrage of attacks as he tried to come up with ways to counterattack. The curious spectators coming out from the tavern were so astonished that their jaws fell to the ground. All formed the same opinion about Gufei in their minds: manly. If a mage that dared to clash directly against a warrior with a sword was not considered manly, then no one else would be. This manly mage was a little foolish, however. Confronting the enemy's strong point with his own weak point, how was that not foolish? Everyone could see where this was going. Gufei could not harm the opponent with his common great sword and only managed to drag the fight with his agile movements. He continued to dodge every strike with little trouble, yet the warrior remained patient while dishing out her attacks. She was not the least bit perturbed by continuously missing her target with her swings. Gufei did not give up either. He focused on attacking the armor's joints while he kept dodging. But it was still futile even after attacking 5 or 6 different joints on the armor. Looks like this will be a battle of patience, Gufei analyzed. He was curious which one of them would be the first to become fed up with this battle since they could not harm each other. The answer was revealed soon enough. It was the spectators. Seeing Gufei had no chance of physically slaying his opponent, everyone began to wonder why he did not use spells during the fight. Spells, spells. Everyone began to chant along after one of them started it. It was a must-have during a PvP for a mage. Yet Gufei needed to be reminded by others to use his spells. This led to a change of heart in him. Nothing wrong with trying spells now that my kung fu is not working. Gufei was not a stubborn and inflexible person after all. He moved to a side to evade the incoming swing, and raised his sword and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Fireball! Here I am!" Somebody nearby replied to him, "Fuck off!" Gufei roared at Fireball's direction, before turning back and issuing a command to the ball of fire he summoned. Fire! The fireball flew straight toward the female warrior. She seemed to be a little stumped at first, but she swung her huge axe the next instant to tear apart the little fireball that was unleashed by Gufei. The fireball exploded near the edge of the axe. Did it cause any damage? Gufei was not sure as he could not feel the sensation in his hand like physical combat. You are actually a mage? The female warrior did not actually continue to swing her huge axe at Gufei like how he had anticipated. The lady rested her huge axe near her foot and sized Gufei up. What an obtuse lady. It took her this long to realize I am actually a mage, Gufei thought to himself. To be frank, unless they knew about Gufei's identity beforehand, nobody would actually think he was a mage judging from the way he fought just now. The female warrior was a little alarmed at the moment. The person in front of her was not slow in terms of speed, and he could actually dodge all her attacks with ease. If he had maintained a distance between them and attacked with spells a while ago, she would have been dead by now. I don't need you to go easy on me. The lady blurted out what was on her mind. Go easy on you? Gufei did not really understand this. Am I being tricked by him again? The lady's anger, which had been reduced by half through the battle, was immediately replenished as soon as she thought of that. With her right hand, she lifted the huge axe that rested on her leg. She raised her left hand as well and held onto the axe's handle. It was a battle stance that the lady had not displayed previously. Until now, she had been wielding her axe with just an arm. Gufei, who possessed considerable real combat experiences, could tell that something was about to happen. A powerful skill is coming right up. Sure enough, a whirlwind emerged from the ground and wrapped around the lady as she stepped forward with her right leg and turned her body. Ah! Cyclone! Someone among the spectators yelled. The skill warriors could learn once they reached level 30. Cyclone. The rotation carried the weapon along to execute a 360-degree attack from every direction. While the skill's damage output was dependent on the user's proficiency, the skill's duration was decided by a warrior's rage points. Theoretically speaking, if a warrior had unlimited rage points, then this particular skill could be carried on for an infinite amount of time. As for the rage points, they increased the most when a warrior was being attacked. They would slowly accumulate as well when a warrior hit an enemy or slay an enemy. It was an aspect unique to the warrior job class. Gufei had been slashing away at the female warrior for God knew how many times already. The increase in rage points caused by a single attack from Gufei was not that much since his slashes were basically harmless to her. However, the rage points had been slowly accumulating. Right now, the lady's rage points bar was close to being full. As she unleashed her skill, the spectators were forced to take a few steps back from the impact. It was as if the lady had spun herself into a vortex as a huge cyclone formed in the middle of the venue. Her huge axe could be seen turning into a black ray and mixing itself into the cyclone. The cyclone then flew toward Gufei's direction. It's too fast. Nobody would have expected that the clunky warrior could perform such a high-speed spinning like this when she executed the skill. Close combat job classes are really the best after all. Gufei was still in the mood to express such a thought even when everyone was squealing loudly at his impending doom. The warrior's cyclone moved faster than Gufei as she spun like a whirlwind. It was impossible to avoid the attack. Gufei could only raise his sword in an attempt to block the attack. Yet, pinpointing the axe's trajectory inside the whirlwind was not a simple matter, and blocking it when it was spinning this fast was even more so. Even though Gufei was confronting the skill with all his might, he knew that it would be impossible to stop the attack, seeing how her cyclone was rolling with such force. However, giving up before the very end was not Gufei's style. A loud sound of breaking could be heard as Gufei's common grade sword split into halves. He lost his balance as the gusty wind blew over his body, and then he was swept upward and thrown into the air by it. It was obvious just how much defense Gufei possessed with his beginner mage robe. He would have already faded away as a white light if he had not somewhat blocked that devastating blow just now. Still, death was inevitable for him, seeing how his body was bleeding all over and how his HP was diminishing at a visible rate. I failed to dodge it. Gufei felt frustrated. He made a last-ditch effort at the very end. Initially, he had planned to borrow the rotation force of the cyclone to send himself outward in order to evade the attack. Yet, who would have thought that his sword would break apart at that decisive moment? Instead of dodging the attack by borrowing the momentum of the cyclone, Gufei's sword shattered and the axe hit him multiple times before he was flung outward. He barely managed to avoid a death sentence and succeeded in postponing it. For a mere 2 seconds. I would actually need a miracle to stay alive, Gufei smiled bitterly. And yet, there was indeed a miracle. A ray of white light suddenly appeared and shrouded Gufei. He thought it was a summon to the death, but his HP that was close to running out actually stopped depleting further and could be seen replenishing faintly. Gufei, who had never experienced it before, was not aware that this was the most basic skill of a priest, heal. As Gufei fell down from the attack, he looked around and managed to grasp the entire picture. He saw the lady called Luo continuously bestowing heal on him. However, Gufei was not safe just yet. His HP was still depleting, and an advanced priest skill called Cure was needed before he could fully recover from his wounds. Unfortunately, there was nobody around with that skill at the moment. All Luo could do was bestow heal on Gufei repeatedly to maintain his health. It was a tug of war between a healing skill and the depleting HP. Of course, the female warrior was not happy seeing somebody interrupt the PvP between her and Gufei. But when she turned around and saw the one performing heal, she was stunned. "Sis Luo." Luo nodded in acknowledgement as she slid her hand into her pocket and pulled out a few bottles of medication and a roll of bandage. She handed the items to the dumbfounded Fireball and said, "Go and get his condition stabilized." Fireball snapped himself back and rushed to Gufei's side after receiving the items. He lowered his body down toward Gufei. "I'm saved," Gugai thought to himself, as he saw the items on Fireball's hands, and how the female warrior and Luo actually knew each other. However, Fireball just held onto the items without using them. Gufei stared at him with a puzzled expression. "Hurry! Why are you spacing out like that?" Luo was panicking at the other side. She was using heal like crazy to restore Gufei's HP, which just kept on dropping. It seemed like Gufei's injury was pretty serious. If this continued, her own MP would be depleted as well. By then, it would be too late to heal Gufei even if they use the medicine. Fireball whispered covertly to Gufei, "Drunk bro, do you want to stop the bleeding with your acupuncture strikes first?" Gufei was already about to curse at him, but he managed to endure the urge to actually do it. "I am a teacher." Gufei calmed himself down, and said coldly to Fireball, "You read too many wuxia novels. Oh, you don't actually know how to do acupuncture strikes?" Fireball seemed to be in quite a shock. The medicine. Gufei could not stand it anymore and he yelled at Fireball. His HP had dropped significantly when he got agitated and Luo became frantic as a result. "I'll do it." The lady who had wounded Gufei approached them. "What are you up to?" Fireball said this righteously as he blocked her from getting close to Gufei. "Oh, fuck you. Just heal me already." Gufei's voice got weaker by the second.